All right, Justin, thank you so much for taking the time
Yeah.
to speak with me today and share a little bit of your experiences in terms of working with us. For folks that don't know, Justin Knott is the CEO of Entropy LLC. He is in the digital marketing space. So, Justin, I first want to my first question to you would be, what did you do before you work with us, before we even connected?
Yeah, absolutely. So CPA has definitely been, I'd say, a thorn in the side historically for our business, really from early on. And over the last couple years, we had been in I'd say an okay spot. We were using somebody when we were based in Atlanta, that was doing, I'd say, kind of the run of the mill CPA stuff.
Hmm.
And that was really it. And as a small business owner, as somebody who's got specific skill sets that I'm really good in and having time that's stretched so thin, I think there just wasn't a lot else outside of doing some annual tax stuff and paying taxes for us. And that was really it, honestly, in terms of that. And I was doing everything else on that side in terms of handling all the bookkeeping, getting paid, paying vendors, all of that kind of stuff.
Got it. Got it. And then when did you have this epiphany that something is wrong in the business in terms of the kind of support you're getting or what you're getting from your CPA? When did you have that epiphany with you?
So it's definitely was kind of a twofold. I think I always knew, and it had been a lot of dialogue with my wife, who's the other owner of the business, of kind of feeling like I was on an island, asking a lot of questions and getting little in return from who I was working with currently. So I always knew that I wanted to find somebody that could provide a lot more of the type of CFO and CPA services that I needed and could be more hands on to help us grow. And I'd say it was definitely when we moved down to Florida, that was a huge kind of epiphany for me in terms of I wanted somebody local. I'm definitely old school like that, but when we really started accelerating our business growth, that was when I was like, it's time. If I'm ever going to get to where I want to go with the business, I need somebody that can stand beside me and help me do that and help guide and answer questions. So that really moved the needle. I'd say the beginning of this year, I was like, it's time for a change. I'm ready to kind of take this up a notch.
Got it. Got it. And I have to say, Justin, that you're one of the very few business owners that I ran across. I do run across some of them, but you're one of the very few who got on a call with me and said, I'm looking for a CFO. And I'm like, wow, this business owner understands what a CFO does. And I think, at that point, I thought, okay, great. This is somebody I would love to work with because I think he understands what we do. Instead of 9 out of 10 people get on a call with me and say, I just want a CPA. I
Yep.
just want you to do my taxes. And it's like, I tell them, I don't know exactly what that means, but okay. Um, so you want to share really quick with the audience here, what exactly is a CFO in your mind and in terms of a business owner, what can a CFO do for you in your business? And why were you looking for a CFO? And what exactly is a CFO in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I think it's, I mean, hopefully, I mean, I've tried to always improve as being a business owner, closing in on 10 years, having done so. And I think the mark of a good one is to realize you're not good at everything and you need to find people that are proficient in the skill sets that you don't have. And simply put, even if you are good at it, you just can't do everything as a business owner. You don't have the time, especially when you're trying to grow. And so from a CFO standpoint, I knew as our business was growing that I had a lot of blind spots in terms of things that were affecting profitability, that were affecting our margins, most importantly. And I knew somebody that had that CFO level skill set could see the bigger picture in terms of money flowing in, money flowing out, where the profitability and the margins can be improved, and can really kind of sit down and go through our books and understand the books at a deeper level. And at a high level, see what the big picture based on where I'm trying to take the business and how we get there. And that's really what I knew that I needed. And that's what a CFO meant to me, is really having somebody that understands a world that I understand. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about a 10 or 15 or a 20% profit margin for a business, basis points matter. And
Right.
that is what was really important to me. And I knew that ultimately, whether it's selling the company or providing a lifestyle company or just building it in general, if you're not building it profitably, you're pretty much wasting your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as far as when I talk to business, when they ask me what a CFO is, a CFO, very simply stating, is somebody who has a holistic picture of your business,
Yep.
someone that just does not do only books, someone that does not only do just taxes, or someone who just does not do tax planning only, someone who just does not do just consult and that's it.
Yeah.
It's basically it's a holistic picture, because at the end of the day, you, the business owner, is my client along with the business. I cannot just look at one aspect of the business and not address the others, right?
For sure.
So we're trying to put the whole pieces together. That's truly what a good virtual CFO does.
Yep. I agree.
And what changed once we started work? I know we worked. I think we've been working together for about 3 months
Yep.
so far. And what changed through working with us?
I mean, there were things that I felt like I knew kind of needed to happen, but I needed that reaffirmation. And right off the bat, having kind of those conversations around things that were at the end of the day affecting our margins, affecting the growth of the business. And once you were able to kind of sit down and look at all of it and understand kind of who we are, what we did, and where I wanted to take the business, is starting that process of really turning the ship in the direction that we needed to be heading in. I think that's been the biggest thing in the first 90 or so days, like you said, is really what's been kind of a multi-year issue has now been really quickly routed in the right direction long term in the first 90 days. And there's still a lot more to do, but I just feel every single month we're making substantial progress in that direction. I think that's been the biggest thing in the first 90 days is we are at the tip of the iceberg, but that has been a substantial direction change for us, which has been great.
Got it. Yep. I totally agree with you. When I look at what we've done together, we definitely are on the right track. And in this process, in the last 3 months, how have you changed in terms of working in your as a business owner? How have you changed?
I think really being able to know where I need to focus time and effort when it comes to the financial side of the business, because there are so many things. And I think you can easily get distracted, even on conversations we've had, like, what are you charging hourly, or what should I do with this scope? And it's like, at the end of the day, these are the things as the leader, as the CEO, that you need to be focused on that really matter now if you want to get where you're going next year. And I think that that has changed me as a leader, and it's gotten me more focused on those areas. And it is allowing me to have really strategic conversations with the key people in our business to, again, going back to working on profitability, that stuff, and getting really specific. And instead of having all these different things we're trying to do to improve, it's these are the 3 or 4 things that really matter. And I think that that's helped me be a better leader, a more focused and productive leader that can focus on more deep work that's going to drive things more than I think what we were doing previously.
100%. It's important what you do in business, but it's equally important what you don't do in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. Because there's can
Yeah.
be easily a lot of time sucks day in and day out.
Yep.
Really don't
Yep.
matter.
100%. So the other thing is, I know when we first connected, and you just mentioned even early on the call that you were old school and you were looking for somebody local. And I know that was something you really wanted, somebody local. And I know I think we were just getting out of the COVID situation a few months ago.
Yep.
And I said, we're working remotely because of the COVID, but we do plan to go back to the office, or we may not. We'll just see how COVID happens. But the fact that I was in the Orlando area, you were in the Orlando area, I think that's what got you comfortable. Now that we worked 3 to 4 months, you started seeing substantial results in your business. Now, me and you have not met once in office, right? We've never met each other on a face-to-face in one room. We've always had Zoom calls. What would you say to business owners who share similar mindset, where I need somebody in my backyard? And to be honest, I've never understood why folks have that mindset. Do you want a good neighbor, or do you want somebody who performs well for you?
Yep.
But what would you say to the business owners who come with that mindset that I must have somebody locally?
Yeah. I mean, I think COVID has definitely, I think, gotten a lot of people to shift that mindset a little bit, for sure, just because of an absolute necessity and reprioritization of everything. But yeah, it really doesn't matter, to be honest. I mean, this is something we've been doing. We've been remote really since day one. So it was an easy, comfortable thing for me to wrap my head around. But at the end of the day is you just got to put in the work. You make yourself very available to me to be able, if I have questions or even that early on kind of ramp up, because there's a lot of things to do, especially early on as you're evaluating the business, putting the tax plans together, talking about things that from a CFO aspect that can be done. You've done more than enough in terms of making yourself available, meeting regularly with me on Zoom during the transition, getting our kind of account manager and multiple other people involved for what we're doing. So to me, that should not be a roadblock or a barrier to get started, because it's not necessary to work in person to have great success on this side of your business.
Got it. Got it. So you've had that change in the mindset now. Now you're
Yep.
looking for team player that can bring results
Yep.
than neighbors in your backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. What would you say to business owners who are considering? Well, before I ask that question, let me ask you this. How much do you think we have saved you, both in terms of tax savings and in terms of the margin? If you're not comfortable sharing the exact number, I totally understand. But how can you tell our audience what kind of results have you gotten with us if you were to quantify in some way, shape, and form?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say on the tax savings, and again, we're only 3 months in, so we've got
Yeah,
a lot that we can continue to do and implement. And we're just getting started with a lot of the tax planning recommendations that you put before us. But I can say kind of two things. I'd say there's going to end up being a 2 to 3x multiple in terms of tax savings for us, which is huge. And even when you look at from investing in the CPA and CFO services that you provide, not only is that more than cover all of that investment, but again, twofold or more kind of back in our pocket, so to speak, on the tax saving side. But honestly, and we knew this looking into our business without getting too much into detail, there was a margin side that just fixing that was worth a substantial amount of essentially found revenue from the revenue we were already bringing in. And that is improving by basis points every single month, just in the early on. And we've got, again, a lot of upside to go. And so that's what I'm really excited about is the profit margin side, and getting some simple things in place to fix that is going to end up being extremely lucrative for our business. And that's been, again, turned around, headed in the right direction. And our profit margins are growing every single month, which is huge for us because we're growing at about a 300% clip this year. So if you just consider, if I can improve my margins by 100% and potentially even 200%, that is a lot of profit coming to your bottom line.
absolutely, absolutely. And really, when you talk about growing your profit margin by 100 or 200%, the numbers may sound huge, 100%, 200%.
Yep.
But I'm just giving an example. Let's just say, for the sake of this conversation or an example, if you're a business with 10% profit margin,
Yep.
and we end up going from 10% profit margin to 15%, that's a 50% increase in the profit margin. But 10 to 15% profit margin is very reasonable to achieve,
for sure.
especially if you have a few $100,000 of revenues in the business. That should not be that hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like, if you look at our industry standard, agencies typically run in that 19 to 20%. And that's just on average. And there's plenty that are running substantially higher profit margins, 30, 40, 50%.
Right.
And so when you take that into consideration, like a 5, 10, 15, 20% profit margin increase is extremely doable. And just think about what that means outside of all the tax savings, tax planning stuff. I mean, that can be in $1 million annual revenue business. You're talking about $100,000 or more, and people just found money without having to go out and find any new clients.
100%, 100%. So the 50 or 100% may sound huge, but it's extremely achievable if your margins are low.
It is.
Great. What would you say to the business owner who are considering tax planning and virtual CFO services with us, or who have never gone and done tax planning in the past? I cannot tell you how many business owners I meet every week who just are getting their tax returns prepared. They're not getting any planning done. What would you say?
I highly, highly recommend it. I think that's been the nicest thing, honestly, is the tax planning side. You don't realize, like you said, so many business owners just kind of have that run-of-the-mill relationship with their CPA. They either handle their payroll and then they do annual taxes, and that's really it. That's their total kind of engagement. And tax planning is so much different than what you think that you're actually getting. And that's what I've noticed. We've had more conversations around tax savings and tax planning than I had in 4 years with my previous CPA. And when you realize how much proactiveness is involved in how you approach it, there's no way a CPA that's not doing this and that you're not meeting with some type of even a quarterly basis that you're maximizing your tax savings. There's just no way. Because as your business grows, as your lifestyle changes, those are all considerations with how intricate all the tax stuff is. So I would highly recommend it, and expect, if you have never done tax planning before, to have it feel very different and much more engaged and involved in a good way than anything you've ever seen on a CPA side. So I highly recommend it, because I just feel like there's actually somebody that's out there fighting for us as our business grows to stay compliant, but also save taxes. And then on the other side, from the CFO side, is Anshul and his team going above and beyond on the CFO side to help you grow your business. And there's a lot of, as you said, aspects. It's not just consulting. It's not just looking at your books. It really is a holistic approach. I mean, we're going all the way into talking about how the sales funnel looks like and what services that we're
Right.
focused on. So it really is, because that's what it takes to improve margins, grow profitability, all of that kind of stuff. And so I highly recommend it, because at the end of the day, I think the biggest take back from the first 3 months is, I can see that you care about the health and the growth of our business. And that is showing both in the effort that's put in, the availability that you have, and then obviously straighten our books as we're continuing to grow. So yeah, I highly recommend it for sure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah.
Last couple of questions here. How do we differ from your prior CPA or prior accountant, would you say?
I think, again, twofold. I think what I mentioned before is the availability and the team that kind of surrounds you and us. It's not really, in my previous, we really had kind of one non-CPA that was our account manager, and we talked to him very rarely throughout the year, and that was it. And I've got a team that has access, from who's helping handle our books to who's managing our payroll, to you yourself. And so that's, I think, a huge difference. Is there's just a lot more access. There's a team feel. There's consistent follow-up and communication. I think that that's probably the biggest difference. And then obviously we were doing that run-of-the-mill CPA where they were doing our annual taxes, and that was it. So there's an obvious difference, as we just got a lot more stuff that y'all are providing for us that's been to great benefit for the business.
Yeah. And, I just want to share with my audience too here that I would like to give, equal credit to Justin too, because you showed up. Like, when I was available, but you showed up. If I tell you, Justin, I need A, B, and C document, you get that to me. If I tell you we need to do this month, you actually do it. And I cannot tell you, a lot of my pain points sometimes with the business owners is, I know I can bring value. I know you can be wealthy. I know we can grow the business. I know we can get in the right direction. But if you simply don't show up, and if you have that attitude, hey, I'm going to write you a check and everything should happen automatically, I cannot help you achieve it.
I completely agree. And I think that that's another important thing in a good way, is if you're going to engage with your team, be prepared to put in some positive work. I mean, you got to get you the stuff. I mean, it's really similar in the agency world. That's the biggest frustration, is people like hire an agency and then they're like, all right, go handle everything for my business and make it grow. It's like, well, we got to do this together. It's a team effort. And if you're looking for the positive change to get the most out of the engagement, then you've got to be ready to go to work in a good way, be willing to listen, be able to set time aside to really grow the business. And if you do that, it's going to bear fruit tenfold. But yeah, I definitely recommend is don't go in a mindset of this is just another line item thing. And if you're willing to put in the work, and you will need to put in the work, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, we're not talking about a lot of work here even from a client standpoint from you guys. And what I tell you is, look, I'll do 90% of the work, and you can clarify that if that has been the case or not. But I usually end up doing 90% of the work. I just need you guys to do the 10% of the work. Get me the documents, show up on the meetings, meet with me on a monthly or quarterly basis. Let's talk numbers, get me the bank statements and so forth.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
When those things don't happen, it's impossible for me to get the data. And without the data, I really cannot help you and tell you what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, it's required participation, but I agree. I mean, that's definitely what the
yeah,
workflow levels are in the relationship. And I mean, but it's worth putting in the work. I mean, the extra work, even to go above and beyond that I'm putting in based on the conversations that we've had, is worth the time and effort to set that aside and get it done.
yeah. Just one last question. What do you love about most about working with us?
That's a good
If you
question.
had to, if you had to say just one thing about us, just one thing about that you absolutely love about working with us, what would that be?
I mean, I think it's the obvious care. Again, going back to how all of the other stuff trickles out, the availability, the effort, and the work that y'all have put in so far, it's just obvious that you have a passion for helping small business owners save and grow, both on both sides with the services that
Hmm.
you provide. And that's the difference is as a business owner, lonely island syndrome definitely exists where you're up late nights by yourself. You're doing everything from the janitor work all the way up to the sales work when you're early on growing. And so it's nice to find a group and an organization that really does care about the success of the business. And so I'd say care is probably the biggest thing because everything else that's around that is obvious, but it starts with that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time today, Justin. I
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you.
you sharing the kind words. And trust me, me and my team, we all enjoy working with you guys. And we're so glad that we've connected and found the right client to work with because I try to find the right clients too,
Yep.
where, hey, it's going to be a good fit and the client does want to improve. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
we look forward to bringing you even more results in the next few months, and hopefully we can continue this relationship for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for everything y'all have done for the business.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, man.